a fantastic man. He really is.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome.
What's up, everybody? This is Dan French. This is the French Workbench podcast here on Tuesday. We're starting a little early today, and we got a full crew here today in studio. And I'm going to go right across the room. Guys, thank you so much. Please hit that like button if you like the content. We're going to keep putting out great content for you. Subscribe to the channel if you also like the content, and comment in the comment section. If you guys have any questions during and throughout the show, please leave us some comments. We'll answer those questions in the chat box. So if you guys want to take a look at that, we got Mike on standby here. And so let's go ahead and talk about what we're going to discuss today. We're going to talk with Bronson Mack here about the water situation going on in Las Vegas. And as you know, we told everybody that he'd come back on in a month or two. So
we didn't lie.
Yeah, we didn't lie.
Can I say, I didn't realize Bronson Mack was Bronson Mack because he sounds like a hitman.
He does, doesn't
Like,
he?
you know, what's that actor Bronson? What's his name?
Charlie
Charlie
Bronson.
He was like
Charles
the hit,
Bronson.
Charles Bronson. Yeah.
Yeah. Remember
Taking
that?
out
the
those
guy they named me
water
after,
wasters.
Man, he was pretty ruthless.
He was
the
badass,
wolf, right? He
Yeah.
was bad.
Yeah, the water, they're cracking down. The water.
So as you guys know, this is Matt Shield from Simply Vegas. He's a real estate agent. And Matt, what you been up to, man? What have you been going
What
on?
have I been up to? I've been doing some real estate. I enjoyed Halloween.
Did you dress up, man?
That's a very pagan activity for some righteous Americans, and enjoyed it. Yeah, I did dress up. I dressed up as Freddie Mercury on Friday.
Nice.
And the Joker on Sunday. And
Doubled
I would
up.
share the
So you did it twice.
I did it twice because I did it one for the grown-ups and one for my sons. But
Nice.
it was equal fun, both measures.
Have you been out to a concert? I think we all been talking about concerts. Didn't you go to a concert recently?
I went to the Legion Stadium twice.
Okay.
To see Guns N' Roses and what's his name, the country singer, Garth Brooks.
Garth Brooks.
And what I can say about the Guns N' Roses concert is that Garth Brooks can fill a stadium.
Yeah, I mean, listen. Do you have when you go to a Garth Brooks concert? I mean, is there women outdo the men 2-1?
I gotta say that I'd never been to a country music before, country concert. Didn't know a lot of the words, but I went for the experience, and I gotta say that it was very nice. The females were very nice.
Yes.
And the best place to stand in the whole arena during the concert was next to the ladies' toilets.
Were you going around saying?
It was awesome.
It was. You ever heard that song? Where you
and
say
I was waiting for someone.
That's
Yeah.
kind of creepy. Just saying.
Were you going around the concert?
I was
saying,
holding a bag.
You were holding a bag?
I was holding a bag, and I was very happy.
You were going around saying, why ride a horse, ride a cowboy?
Exactly, and I had a cowboy hat on as
You
well.
had a cowboy hat on.
Yeah.
So we also have over here Rich Salas. He's back, man. What's going on with you, Rich? You also went to a concert too, right?
I did. I think I mentioned it twice before I went on this show, and I think I've mentioned it twice since.
Yeah.
So I'll mention it again. But yes, I went to see Joan Fogerty a few weeks ago.
Well, give us the
at
details,
Wynn.
man. What was it like going there? I mean, was it the whole experience? Was it just
Well,
off the charts?
No, you know what was really great about it is it's not this huge stadium. Like there is a balcony and an orchestra level, but it's not that big. And we were on the orchestra level. We were like row Q or something like that. So we weren't that far back, but it was really nice. It was kind of, I don't know, intimate.
Okay.
And then, as much as I love music, I'm getting old. So I do kind of appreciate that in Vegas. They're like, you get to play for 90 minutes and then it's off.
And then it's off.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I went to a concert too. We went to Korn and System of the Down. And, one of the things I like is I'm getting older a little bit. I'm not old, so I'm not going to sit here and say, but you get to sit down through the concert. When I was a kid, I was like, dude, I want to stand. I want to be in the mosh pit. I want to go down and just kind of experience it. I'm just like, dude, I'm so glad they got seating. It's like I could just sit back, let everybody else do their deal, and I think that's one of the benefits.
Well, especially when I was younger, I'd always get the lawn seats because those were the cheapest.
Right?
That's what you could afford.
Yeah.
We also have Mike Keeler here. He's back. What's going on, Mike? You went to a concert as well. Everybody's going to concerts, man.
I saw Cheap Trick and I saw Billy Idol.
There you go. I want you to want me.
Dude, how old is Billy Idol right now?
66.
I heard that concert was really good. I heard it was good.
The guy still's having fun.
Yeah, and he looks good. Like
he's
he's like
looking
he's
good.
kept himself together. He hasn't been hitting the
I
demon
mean,
drink
he
too
took
much.
his shirt off
The
and
drugs.
he was. he doesn't have the six pack that
Axl Rose is about ready to blow out his axle.
Is he really?
Yeah.
Does he look terrible? I mean, in person?
and he sounds terrible as well.
Really?
Yeah, it was almost a full blown articulated blowout.
Would you say a refund at that point, or were you like, nah, just
I think
deal
Slash
with-
pulled it together.
Yeah. Slash
Yeah.
pulled it
Sla-
together.
If they didn't have Slash, it'd be done.
Yeah. I also got to ride the Zamboni at a
Didn't
Golden Knights
didn't
game.
Wolfgang Van Halen come out and play a little bit with him too?
I didn't see that. I wasn't. I mean, maybe.
I think Mammoth opened up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
So as you guys
I was-
know, this is Bronson Mack. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry.
Bronson Mack. He's back. So Bronson, what's up, man? Thank you for coming back. I know you have
Bet.
a lot of information to talk to us because you're just the water man. That's what we call you now. Everything pertaining to water.
Hey, I'll
It's all
take Water Man
I
over
mean,
Water Boy.
Yeah, yeah, Water Boy's derogatory. It's Bronson Mac.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
so Bronson, let's talk a little bit, man. Thank you for coming back on. So you came out about 2 months ago.
Yeah.
And you're with the Nevada Water Authority, right?
And he
Yeah,
still
so-
came
Southern
back.
Nevada.
Southern Nevada Water Authority. You know,
Yeah.
we're out here talking about water conservation. It continues to be extremely important for everybody that lives in this community. You know, a couple things to think about. You know, because I know a lot of what you talk about here is real estate, and a lot of your listeners are interested. You know, in kind of what's going on the markets. You know, one thing just to keep in mind is that water conservation is what allows our economy to grow. It allows our economy to flourish. We
Yeah.
cannot have an economy without a reliable water supply. And in order for us to maintain that reliable water supply, we have to conserve. In 2002, Southern Nevada used more than its 300,000 acre foot allocation. So we used more water than we were allowed to use.
and there was less
in
population.
2002. And there was less
That was
population
like
at that
half,
time.
less than
That's right.
half.
That's right. So since that time, since 2002, we've cut our water use by about 23%, yet our population has grown by about 800,000 people.
Wow.
So if you've done anything in this valley since 2002, if you've purchased a home, if you've expanded your business, if you have a child that has graduated from college and is starting a new career, if you've started a family, if you've done anything pretty much in Southern Nevada since 2002, you've been able to do it because of water conservation. And it's important that we continue to pay that forward for future generations, for future years. So make sure you follow the seasonal watering restrictions. Right now, we're in winter.
Yeah.
Change your watering clock to water only 1 day a week. If you don't change your watering clock to 1 day a week, you're going to get a fine.
Can I
we
say
talked a
something,
little bit
Bronson?
about this. You're going to
Listen,
get a fine.
Bronson, I actually was inspired by our last meeting.
I love it.
So what I normally do when I'm going to the gym, I have a water bottle in my truck, and I normally pour it on whatever plant looks like it needs it the most.
Great.
But then I thought, but wait, Bronson Mac wouldn't like that. And so instead of doing that, I actually pour the water down the drain in the gym
And why?
because it goes back into the system.
It goes back into the
See,
system.
isn't that weird? It's like you
My
think you're
man.
wasting water.
And the other thing was, now I realize that I didn't want Bronson Mac on my case.
My man. See, high five. There you go. Any water that you use indoors gets reclaimed,
Yeah.
treated to near drinking water standards. We return that water back to Lake Mead safely. Any water we return to the surface of Lake Mead, we can take another gallon of that water out from deep within the lake, bring it into the valley after going through the drinking water treatment process. The only way we consume water from Lake Mead, which you see behind me, the only way we consume water from that lake is either through irrigation, that's watering those plants in our landscapes, water in the trees, or through evaporative cooling. And those are our large high-rise buildings that use evaporative cooling for air conditioning. So those are really the two ways that we consume water. Everything else gets reclaimed and put back into Lake Mead safely, and that's why conservation is really easy. Focus on your outdoor water use, water only 1 day a week right now.
You see this picture behind us. Do you see the regression of the water that you see on this picture? This is maybe a recent. Now,
That's
Bathtub
recent.
ring.
yeah. So my parents had a pool. I mean, not a pool. They had a boat, and they do have a pool too.
Same thing.
But they had a boat, and they sold the boat, right? And I think a lot of people are thinking, well, should I sell my boat? Is there really going to be an opportunity to go out to Lake Mead? Because it's looking slim
Yeah.
out there. I mean, this doesn't look good. And is this going to actually recover anytime soon?
Lake Mead is about 250 square miles. So there is
Tons
still
of
a
water.
ton of water. There is still a
Yeah.
ton of recreational opportunities that are out there. We are going to still see flows come into Lake Mead. I mean, unless you're going to tell me that it is going to stop snowing in the Colorado
Yeah.
Rockies for 2 or 3 years in a row, then there wouldn't be any runoff. So there's going to continue to be flow coming into Lake Powell, coming into Lake Mead. So if you are someone who likes to continue to recreate out at the lake, hold on to your boat. Keep going out there. Keep wakeboarding. Just be more mindful because there's a lot more exposed surfaces and lower water levels to be mindful of.
So this summer, I know a half dozen people that own boats. I would never own a boat because I think it's like you're not going to use it enough and it's expensive.
You just got to know someone who owns
exactly,
one.
and I know a half dozen, and all of them only went out to the lake a maximum of 3 times this summer because it was such a hot summer, and it was like, because also with the lake going down, the park service hasn't extended the ramps, so to get to the lake, to get into the lake on your boat, if you go at the wrong time, it could take like a couple hours to line up to get in.
There's fewer locations to be able to put
at
in,
the moment,
which means longer lines to put in. For
and then
your
the other
boat.
thing
so there's
is
a challenge.
Yeah. So anyway, but just
Well, I think it's just discouraging, though. I mean, look, you got all these people that are going to one specific area. They're all lined up. There used to be multiple places you can launch that boat, and now there's it's narrowed down to one.
Yep.
And so now you're looking at it. Well, and water's still there, but is it going to be a problem? And how long will it take if we did recover? Because it's taken us a really quick time to take this water away. It seems like maybe the last few years that we were 20. So, but is in the last 2 years did we see a real big reduction in this water here at Lake Mead?
Well, a lot of it depends on how much water gets released out of Lake Powell. And actually, we've had some pretty large releases from Lake Powell down to Lake Mead. See, on an average, you get about 8.23 million acre feet of water released from Lake Powell down to Lake Mead every single year. We've had some years where there's been as much as 9 million acre feet that's been released. It all depends on what the level of Lake Mead is in relation to the level of Lake Powell. So if you are a boater, if you are in Southern Nevada, if you don't want to wait in line at Lake Mead, you also have the options of Lake Havasu and you have the option of Lake Mojave.
So who makes that decision at Lake Powell? Like, let's say
the Bureau of Reclamation, and that is based on a series of agreements and entitlements,
right?
And there's old agreements, but there's new agreements layered on top of it. That's right. But it all depends on what the level of Powell is, based on what the level of Mead is, that determines how much water gets released. The water that is in Lake Powell, that is the water for the upper basin. That's Wyoming, that's Utah, that's Colorado, and that's New Mexico. And they have an obligation in order to release water down to the lower basin, Arizona, California, Nevada, and the country of Mexico. Yeah. And so they do that from Lake Powell down to Lake Mead.
Don't you think it's a crisis position, though, with Lake Mead? I mean, I don't feel like we're going to lose all the water, but I feel
it's only a crisis if you say it's a crisis.
Yeah, I feel like it is. I mean, I feel that the amount of water that's regressing back, inward. You got a lot of people out there that, like I said, that are worried about that situation. Why wouldn't they just say, well, we have a ton of water here at Lake Powell. I don't know if they do or not because I don't know the research on that. But
there's not a lot.
There's not a lot. So what happens if Lake Powell dries up? Are we done in the water?
So again, you're talking about the fact that there is going to be no snow in the Colorado Rockies. We've had some dry years. We've had some dry years, no doubt about it. The soils within the Colorado Rockies are very dry. So when there is snow, a lot of that water before it runs off into the river system gets soaked into those soils. If you talk to the climatologists, who are much smarter than I am, they'll tell you that there are going to be years where we're going to see excessive flooding. We're going to see high snowpack, but we're going to see a warmer and drier future, an aridification, if you will, of the desert Southwest. Now, it's a crisis if we don't have any other options. But here in Southern Nevada, we have options. Look at how much grass there is in this valley that nobody ever walks on. And that's the stuff that is sucking up our water. Do you realize that a square foot of grass uses 10 feet of water to survive in our community? 10 feet. That's an NBA basketball hoop.
Wow.
Okay. If we can exchange that grass for drip irrigated landscaping, that's about 2.5 feet of water. So the water we use indoors, we recycle. If we can reduce that outdoor water use, get rid of that non-functional, useless grass, that's huge water savings. About 10% of our water supply goes to grass that nobody ever walks on.
Yeah, I've got some clients who just took out a whole bunch of grass, and they're just waiting for a check.
Yeah.
$3 a
Yeah.
square foot.
Yeah.
Southern
do they
Nevada
say?
Water
Wow.
Authority
What do
will
they
give
say?
you $3 a square foot.
What do they
Wow.
say at the water district? Grass or ass?
I think that was on the bumper sticker of your van.
I'm sorry, I was confused with Mac Bronson.
What do you mean by
I believe our sticker simply says go to snwa.com and get $3 a square foot.
Well, which one is it, Matt? Is it grass or ass?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. It was just remarking.
Oh, okay. That's a good slogan. You might want to,
That's not my slogan.
Trade.
No, that
He's
one's
got
from
a trademark.
That's
that,
for like a
that was from
ride.
1976, I believe.
All right.
I saw Dazed and Confused.
Yeah.
So like you look at the situation though with this whole water thing. So a lot of people are thinking, well, there's the unknown secret, and I don't know if this is true. We've had other people come on and talk about that there's water underneath the Las Vegas Strip.
Yeah,
Now,
there is.
and there is, and they recycle that water, and that's why the casinos will not have any issues potentially with having a water supply. Do you know anything about that?
Well, the vast majority of the water that the casinos use is Colorado River water. That's water that gets delivered by the Las Vegas Valley Water District that is treated by the Southern Nevada Water Authority that is withdrawn from Lake Mead. But the majority of their water use is indoors. We could turn on every shower and every faucet and every hotel room on the Las Vegas Strip,
would loop round.
and all of that water you're right, it'll loop back around, gets returned back to Lake Mead safely where we can take it out and use it again. We do have an aquifer system here within the valley. We have water that is stored within the aquifer for our community's future use. You have private well users that have groundwater rights, and they use that groundwater for their own personal use. A lot of the hotels do have wells, and they use the wells. For instance, the Wynn has a well, and they use that to irrigate the golf course
Yeah.
at the Wynn. The Bellagio has a well. They use that for
Yeah,
the
they're
water
all
that's
it's
in
all
the
it's
fountain.
all internal where
But
they
it's,
just yeah.
it's not necessarily recycled. When you're pulling water up out of the groundwater system,
Yeah.
the only way it's going back in is one of two ways: either precipitation, where it's percolating back down through the system, or some kind of an artificial recharge. And we do artificial recharge. We will take Colorado River water, treat it to drinking water standards, inject it into the aquifer, and then it's there for our future use.
Can I say something about the Wynn?
Yeah.
Is, I stayed at the Wynn, and if you flush the toilet at the Wynn, it's the most powerful toilet flush on the Strip. Like literally, you flush it, and it's like.
Do you ever see the ones that actually spray back up to kind of wash you down?
Yeah, that's a big day. Yeah, that's not good. Backsplash isn't good in that context.
I'm gonna concur with that. Backsplash is not good in that context.
The water district does not approve.
We don't know anything about backsplash.
So the people out there want to know, like, are we going to run out of water, right? And you got a lot of people moving here, and I know the big question is where is the water supply at now, and where do you see the water supply heading in the near future for Las Vegas?
We get 300,000 acre feet of water out of the Colorado River. We get the smallest slice of the Colorado River pie. Our allocation is going to be reduced from 300,000 to 279 next year because there is a declared water shortage. Last year, our water use was about 256,000 acre feet. So we're still not using our full allocation of Colorado River water. We're going to continue to advance water conservation. AB 356, which was legislation that was just passed, requires that commercial and non-residential properties take out their grass, replace it with drip irrigated landscaping. That's going to save 10% of our water supply. So we're going to continue to see water savings that's going to occur over the years to come. That is water that can be used by residents that are here now, residents that may come in the future. If I was to go around this table and ask each of you when you moved here, I should just say, raise your hand if you're a native Las Vegan. Exactly.
Nobody.
So everybody has come here from somewhere else. And it's because of this community and the economy that and the opportunity that this economy provides to everybody that brings people to this community here. And as long as we continue to use water wisely, we're going to be okay.
I read an article, I think it was today. It was about new golf courses, and new golf courses are not allowed to use any water from the Colorado River. There's like a new mandate. Which
you are
not,
up on your current events,
I stay
man.
current, you know.
I mean,
I joke around, but I'm on top of it. And then, but then I thought, well, what water would they use?
So right now, the Las Vegas Valley Water District Board of Directors today approved prohibition of any new golf courses built within the Las Vegas Valley Water District service area. So that's City of Las Vegas and unincorporated Clark County. Any new golf courses that are built are not going to be permitted to use Colorado River water. They would have to use groundwater.
If they have it.
If they have it. If
Right.
they have the water
Yeah,
rights to
so
use it. And so
interesting.
that's kind of a
So-
stretch as to whether or not they would do that.
so-
Existing golf courses can remain.
So another question. The Badlands golf course, like with all that litigation, where what happened was some developers bought the golf course and they wanted to develop it, but then they let it go bad, and then they've been fighting with the city of Las Vegas. So my question is, I just thought of it. If that golf course is already there, but it's been out of business, would they be able to use water, or would they be grandfathered in? And so then those developers would win. The city would win from the back door. Does that make sense?
I'd have to check
I don't know,
specifically as
but-
to whether or not they gave up any of their
Water. I don't know.
any of their rights on their meters.
Yeah, but
or
that's
anything
that's
there.
that's
Now the
something that-
developers wanted to build houses
Yeah,
there.
exactly.
They did not want to build a golf course. The existing homeowners around the golf
Want the
course
golf course to
want to
stay.
keep the golf course because that's what they bought into.
Yeah.
When
So maybe they.
purchased,
So maybe the developers will
It
win from
hasn't, it
this.
hasn't been a golf course for years.
Years.
They stopped operating it. That's part of the problem. That's why the developers wanted to build on it.
correct.
Huh.
And the most
Interesting.
recent golf course built in Las Vegas that I'm aware of is Summit out in Summerlin, which is probably one of the most, if not the most exclusive golf
Oh,
course
really?
in the valley.
Hey, so let me just ask you some questions about what this would mean for future homeowners or even current homeowners. So I know that there's this thing about the having to get rid of the useless grass, basically, as
Right.
they've called it. So that includes all existing grass, yes? So anyone who has a front lawn still is going to have to get rid of their grass? Or what does that mean exactly?
It really doesn't apply to residential. So single family residential, if you've got grass in your front yard, I can tell you right now, unless you're out there picnicking on it and your kids are using it, you got useless grass in your front yard.
I mean, I agree with that.
So but that becomes a homeowner decision. And still, $3 a square foot. We want to incentivize homeowners to take out that grass, replace it with drip irrigated landscaping.
Okay.
Really, AB 356 applies to commercial properties. So the shopping center, the bank, the dentist office that has grass around it. It also applies to or multifamily residential properties.
Okay.
There'll be some limits there. They'll be able to still have some grass within multifamily because obviously you have people that are living there that could benefit from using some recreational grass. HOAs.
Recreational grass.
Yeah, it's the whole intent, right? Recreational grass. HOAs that have grass at their entry points or grass along their streetscapes. I mean, Summerlin is one where there's a lot of grass along streetscapes.
Yeah.
Southern Highlands, a lot of grass along streetscapes.
Well,
those are the ones that are going to have to change that out to
Change it
drip
up.
irrigated
Because
landscape.
I've definitely seen a couple of plazas already. There's one at Lake Mead and Rock Springs I saw, and they're replacing they're putting fake grass on I think what they used to have, maybe something else there, but I saw them putting them up just this past weekend. I'm sure we'll be seeing a lot more of that.
And it's funny because if you're driving by at 35, 45 miles an hour, it's kind of hard to tell real grass from the fake grass.
I can only
right?
tell because there's cement and you could see them laying it on as I was driving.
Yeah, there's
by.
people by my house doing
Yeah.
the same thing, replacing the real grass for the artificial grass.
Yeah.
And it's probably for that reason. You look at the situation though, where you had in the news for a good period of time, people were worried about Lake Mead. They're worried about the water supply, and it was really in the news. Now I know you've come on, and this is just to kind of put everything at rest. But you came on and you were saying that there's nothing to worry about. Yet a lot of the news channels and a lot of the media out there was saying that we're really running short and that we may not have water. What is the purpose of that? Why would these news channels and the media out there really put
Money.
out
wanna
there that this is really in a bad position
Because
and everybody needs to worry and maybe
because of fear. They want to sell fear.
it's fear, and I think they're.
You know?
It's like you
and they
got
don't-
people moving out of the state. That might prevent them from actually moving here if they see all this negative publicity about water shortage.
But the other thing, a lot of these media people, if you look at them, they're like one Botox treatment from an embolism. They don't know anything about anything.
Let's put some context in this. So we have invested $1.5 billion in new infrastructure in Lake Mead. We have a new intake that is on the bottom of Lake Mead, and we have a low lake level pumping station that allows us to pump the full elevation of the lake. In other words, should Lake Mead reach a point where no water can pass through Hoover Dam, it's about elevation 900. And right now, Lake Mead is at elevation about 1078, 1076, somewhere right in there. If Lake Mead reaches elevation 900, no water can pass through Hoover Dam. That means there is no power generation at Hoover. There's no water being delivered to 4.4 million acre feet down to California. There's no 2.8 million acre feet being delivered to Arizona, or 1.5 million acre feet being delivered to Mexico. But here in Southern Nevada, we will still have access to whatever water would remain in Lake Mead. Now, are we going to get our full allocation at that point? I don't know. But I do know we have the capability to be able to continue to provide water to this community because we have made that investment in.
Is that the
in
thing?
The,
The stub thing?
the third straw, as
The
they
third
like
straw.
to call it,
Yeah,
or
yeah,
the
yeah.
low lake level pumping
So
station.
we get the last straw.
Took a lot of money to build
So
that one. I know.
took a lot of money, took a lot of foresight as well. I mean, as we were building that facility, we
some
actually ended
accidents.
up with some very, very good hydrology on the river. Lake Mead started to come up, and people started saying, why are you continuing to make this investment? Well, this picture behind me is why we continue to make that investment,
Well,
so
I
we
just-
can protect our access to our water supply.
Yeah, so I mean, as far as California coming in and taking some of that water, is that a false narrative that they actually have control over some of that water, or is it?
California is legally entitled to 4.4 million acre feet, just like Southern Nevada is legally entitled to 300,000 acre feet. Now, we are partnering with California. We're going to make some investments in California because right now, California's wastewater, their treated wastewater, gets discharged out to the Pacific Ocean. We're going to
That's
help.
something that just blows my mind. You
Right?
think of California being a really environmental state, yet
Yeah.
they're getting rid of this incredibly precious resource. That's just nuts.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do is we're partnering with the Metropolitan Water District of Southern California and all of those sanitation districts, all of those wastewater districts that are in the Los Angeles area. And they are going to take their current wastewater, they're going to treat it to a much higher standard, like we do here in Southern Nevada. They're going to pipe that water across Los Angeles, and they're going to inject it into their aquifer where they will be able to recover it and use it again. For our investment, it's about $750 million. For our investment in that project, we're going to get a share of the water. But rather than piping and pumping that water from Los Angeles to Las Vegas, we're going to exchange it for a share of California's Colorado River water, which we will access out of Lake Mead through our infrastructure that's already there. So we have the potential to grow the amount of water that we'll be able to take from the Colorado River going forward.
Wow.
Any ideas how much that'll be?
For us, it's $750 million. In total, at full build-out, it's a little over $3 billion.
No, but
that Los
how much
Angeles-
water would we end up getting?
It could be anywhere from about 25 to 30,000 acre feet. Still yet to be determined. But you push that through return flow credits, which we talked about, that indoor water use. I mean, that could be more than 50,000 acre feet.
Okay.
That could be made available to us. The other thing to keep in mind is that 80% of the Colorado River is used for agriculture. Now, granted, I like to eat fruits and vegetables. You guys like to eat fruits and vegetables too. But a large share of the water that is used for agriculture, Colorado River water, is used for forage crops that actually are used by cattle and other livestock. And some of those cows and livestock aren't even cows that are located within the United States. They are
That's
located in other countries. So, making some decisions about agricultural water use. And again, ag's not they're not the bad guy here.
No.
But finding that balance and finding that opportunity where we can make conservation efforts on the agricultural side so that they can continue to be successful while still freeing up water for communities.
Let me ask you something. I'm not sure if you would know this exactly, but Do you think that there's going to have to be a policy change as far as allowing people to build swimming pools as a result of our, lack of water or having to conserve water more going forward? They're kind of a big deal here, bigger deal than they are in a lot of other places.
I think that there is the potential that we could see some type of changes there. Whether that's looking at community swimming pools.
Well, I think you know something.
Whether that means looking, I will say this: a lot of options are on the table. I mean, there's a lot of options on the table as far as.
And it takes a lot of water to keep it up.
But here's what's really interesting about swimming pools is that if you have 1,000 square foot, let's just say 1,000 square foot surface swimming pool, and you have 1,000 square feet of grass. That 1,000 square feet of grass is going to use more water in a year than that 1,000 square feet of swimming pool.
Yeah, of course, 10 feet.
Yeah.
So, are there going to be opportunities for things that are more like community swimming pools where, HOAs are built where you have, multiple homes that are all sharing a pool? We see that already within the valley. And in those instances, you have fewer and fewer individual homes that have swimming pools. Anybody see Mark Davis's house?
No, I know it's all black, right?
You're not telling me he shares a swimming pool.
I was planning on
He
going
does
this
not.
weekend.
He does not share a swimming pool. In fact, his entire front yard is pretty much a swimming pool.
Really? So
You
he's
know?
got what size? Did they
the
give the
Bellagio.
dimensions of the size of the pool?
All I've seen are the renderings on it, but
Yeah.
all I can say is that it's a lot of water.
Wow.
And so it's things like that I think we need to be mindful of. Look, there are a lot of small swimming pools that are out there. If those swimming pools are managed properly, drained directly into the sanitary sewer system rather than being drained within the street, they can be rather efficient. But you're asking me in the future whether or not there could be changes in swimming pools.
All options on the table.
I'd say all options on the
All
table.
options on the table.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, we do have
know.
a question. Running at altitudes, wondering about new developments. Are they forced to use artificial turf, or can they use grass?
So right now, new developments are not permitted to have any grass in the front yard. So no real grass in
Which
the
has
front
been that
yard
for
at
a
all.
while.
It's been like that for a while. No grass in common areas unless you've got some kind of a park area. We right now are working with a committee, a non-functional turf advisory committee that is taking a look to help to really define what non-functional grass means. This is for the implementation of AB 356. But along with that, there will be some parameters, some dimensions, some type of criteria that'll be set that'll help to define really what is functional grass going forward, what is non-functional grass. And really, I'm thinking about those common areas in the HOA. Hey, look, in my HOA, we've got two common areas. We got one big plot of grass, rather large, gets used by the dogs, gets used by the
Correct.
residents, gets used, great. We've got another plot of grass that is much smaller, that is supposed to be for the dogs. It's kind of the dog waste area. That's grass that's probably going to end up having to go under AB 356. And then we've got grass at our entry. That grass is definitely going to be going under
What
AB
about
356.
what are they going to do with the surf and turf?
We're going to eat it. 'Cause it's delicious.
What about parks? I mean, are they going to keep doing?
about all
Are
the
they going to
city
look
parks?
at parks?
What about
and-
the dog parks?
There's a lot of
Yes,
grass.
because the
Yeah,
dogs
a lot
need a
of grass
place
at
to go,
parks.
right? So
Well, just even the people parks.
yeah, people parks in general, right?
So parks
We have
provide a
nice
lot of
parks here, too.
recreational benefit. I mean, that's where you can have organized sports. That's where you can have the gatherings. So
So
parks,
they're fine.
Parks are pretty much exempt from AB 356.
Really?
Now, is there non-functional grass at parks? Of course there is.
So how do they get around that though? If there's
There's a
so
lot of
much grass, I understand it's grandfathered in, but isn't that a problem?
But you need it
It's-
for the population to have leisure.
Exactly.
It's
it
important.
it provides the recreational benefit.
Yeah.
Now, we have incentivized parks to go from what are known as cool season grasses. These are grasses that stay green year round, to more of the warm season grasses that are just green during the summertime.
Yeah.
And then they go dormant in the winter. Provides a little bit of water savings, making those kinds
But
of
the thing is
transitions.
with the parks is I go to Sunset Park a lot to feed the ducks, and I have sons, and we go have a knockabout at the park. And what stuns me with the parks is you see they spend a lot of money, but it just gets the heat trashes it. like especially like the water features with like that rubber stuff on the ground.
Oh, the sun just eats it
It
up.
just cracks and is gone within a year or two, and then they redo it, and it must be like tremendously expensive. I'm sure that their water is like the last thing they're worried about.
But when you are at the park, when you're there, when you're feeding the ducks or you're walking from the parking lot across, you see hundreds of people that are there.
Yeah,
right?
because it's
I mean,
functional leisure.
It's a functional park,
And-
right?
and if
It
you
is
don't
providing a benefit to hundreds of
Yeah,
people at
yeah.
any one time, as opposed to that park that might be located inside a gated
Yeah, yeah.
community
Oh, yeah, which
where
is-
5 people walk their dog.
Yeah, exactly. Which
on a
is which
Friday.
you can like. There's some communities that had those grassy areas, but they're really that was window dressing to sell the properties, but they're functionally obsolescent. Like
Yeah.
they don't. It's just they got that stuff's got to go.
You know, and the other thing is that homes are bought and sold in this valley every single day. You know, and people who are buying resale homes that have grass in the front yard, those new homeowners are likely making the decision as to whether or not, look, we want to make some upgrades. You know, we want to redo the kitchen, or we want to redo the bathroom, or we want to redo the front yard. We want to get rid of the grass. You know, when I bought my house, it didn't have any grass in the backyard, but it has a small plot of grass in the front yard. Not anymore. That's all been upgraded now to Water Smart Landscaping.
Yeah. So if you look at the big picture though for parks, now I play indoor soccer.
Yeah.
Right. And I also have a lot
Super
of,
water efficient.
super water efficient.
Where
Right.
did you play indoor soccer at?
Over here at Longevity.
Yeah. Okay, I know that place.
Yeah. So I play soccer.
the
I play
owners
indoor
there.
soccer. Now some of the outdoor soccer fields are now artificial turf as well.
Yep.
Now could you see that happening where we'll still have the outdoor festivities,
Nah.
right? But it's going to start to turn to artificial style grass
So-
instead of real grass.
So like I play.
It's possible.
Yeah,
so-
I mean it's definitely there, right?
The thing is, like for the soccer and like I'm going to some rugby matches on Saturday. I used to play rugby, but I don't play anymore because I'm like old. But the thing is you need the grass. You got to have the grass to play soccer or rugby. You can't get rid of that grass
So what you're going to see,
because that's a functional leisure use
And
that
what-
makes money.
and what we see really is on a case-by-case basis decisions being made. So the Clark County School District has made investments in their football fields, getting rid of their football field natural grass, moving that over to an artificial grass.
Football
now-
fields are doing it.
Now,
Yeah.
granted, there's still a little bit of water that gets used. They'll generally water it down before the game, cool it off. It just helps with the surface just a little bit. But that you're talking about not having to irrigate that every single day,
time.
multiple
Yeah.
times a day
And
during
then-
the summer, right?
Right.
So yeah, I do think,
Especially
and
when
I do
it's
think
not being used.
Right.
and I do think that the municipalities, the cities, and the counties, you know, as they're looking at parks in the future, are going to be looking at what kinds of playing surfaces are going to have the most benefit and the most water efficient, even if it's a splash pad, because splash pads recycle that water. All of that water gets reclaimed and used again.
But not backsplash pads.
So,
Go ahead. He's got a question here.
well, yeah, Beth is saying that Southern California has been treating their wastewater for about 20 years. I mean, what do you know about that?
I think it depends on what area of Southern California. The vast majority of the Los Angeles area has been doing wastewater treatment. Yep. They just don't treat it to the standard that we do in Southern Nevada, where it can be used again. And in fact, it is discharged to the Pacific Ocean.
Yeah,
Now,
she
some of
says
it
they're-
gets reclaimed, put into purple pipe, and they use it for other irrigation purposes. That is true, but you're talking about a fraction of the water in comparison to what gets discharged out to the ocean. And I'm not saying that California is the bad guy here in the least. California is making those investments, and we're making that investment right along with them.
Well, I'm going to say something about California. This was brought to my attention, so I'm not going to say for sure, right? I'm not going to say this is, I did study on this, but I've heard, or I've talked to a few people that said California shuts off their water, or there's certain portions or places where, not the rich areas, but the least, yeah, right? It's the areas that are probably, less than, I don't know how to put this, but people that are not.
Less tax revenue.
Yes, less tax revenue. Let's put it there. That would actually have their stuff shut off at certain times with water, including power.
Oh, wow, I never heard of that.
That's what I've heard. That they can't overuse power. They can't overuse the water in these less fortunate areas. Let's just
I
put it
didn't
that
know
way.
that.
This is what I heard. Have you
I don't
heard
know.
anything about that?
I didn't know
Not-
anything about that.
Not familiar at all.
Now,
with
they're
that.
not publicizing it, I guess, but they're saying that this is something that has been brought to my attention from others that
Oh, I didn't know
are
that.
and from that area. And it's because
Interesting.
California is big, but yet they're not really promoting it.
Well,
Well, yeah, they wouldn't.
4.4 million acre feet of Colorado River water goes to California. The vast majority of that water is used for agriculture in the Imperial Valley, the Coachella Valley, and the Palo Verde Valley. The remaining amount of that water is used somewhere within Southern California, pretty much between Santa Barbara and Chula Vista down at the border of Mexico. Now, they also get water from their state water project. That water is all supplied by the Metropolitan Water District of Southern California to the individual municipalities that then deliver that water to their end users, to their individual customers. But I certainly have not heard of any communities in California that do not have water 24/7.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. Go ahead.
Yeah, we got another question here about what amount of water is being used for air conditioning.
A lot.
So
Well, it
basically,
depends.
You're talking about swamp coolers, though, right?
Well,
Or-
it's swamp coolers, right? So a lot of us think about swamp coolers here in Southern Nevada. We're rather fortunate that each and every home, I shouldn't say each and every home. There are some homes in Southern Nevada, some of your more mature homes that still do use swamp coolers. The vast majority of homes here in Southern Nevada, however, utilize a centralized cooling system that does not consume water. These are what we find on homes that were all built in the pretty much 70s until today. The type of air conditioning that does use considerable amount of water is evaporative cooling. That's what you see at the hotels. That's what you see at the universities. That's what you see at like your large high rises, like a Turnberry Tower. Not to call them out specific,
And most
just the way
most-
in which
Most
that
commercial
type,
warehouses.
and some commercial
Oh, really?
warehouses. Now some of those
Less
are
so
using
now.
swamp coolers. Some of
Yeah.
those do use a swamp cooler, which is a less water consumer. So we are doing quite a bit of research right now to get a better understanding of evaporative cooling. There are other types of dry cooling technologies that are out there. We actually just had some of our conservation experts take a trip down to Arizona to visit a data center that uses dry cooling system. We're going to do a pilot project at the Las Vegas Valley Water District with regards to some dry cooling. So that we can pilot some of that technology, and ultimately we can increase the efficiency of the evaporative cooling systems that are used.
Well,
So
why-
I did see a comment about I think we're all thinking Utah needs to be the first to get cut off, and I say to that, you better try that on with the Mormon militia. They've got guns and food, and they store water for 6 months. So that would be interesting if you tried to cut them off.
Yeah, a big portion of Utah is the Mormon religion. Is that what you're saying?
Predominantly,
Yeah.
predominantly, but they're a nice bunch.
Well, that's where Lake Powell is, right?
They're a nice
Yeah.
bunch.
What were you going to say over here, Rich?
Oh no, I was gonna say, well, why did they use evaporative cooling at the casinos
was
and
the
the warehouses?
I think that was the first technology.
But if we all use all of our houses now and the newer homes don't use it, and we use I don't know, the Freon, or I don't know what it is, why we don't use water in them, but we don't have to consume water in our air conditioners. Why are they still using evaporative cooling at the?
I think I can answer that because I put together some greenhouses once on a indoor outdoor CBD thing, and I think the swamp coolers use way less electricity.
Correct.
Because you're just pumping water instead of running motors and pumping everything and doing all that. I think it's much more cost effective.
More cost effective
electricity.
at the point of construction to utilize an evaporative cooling system than it is to utilize other types of cooling
right.
systems.
I mean-
the other thing to keep in mind is that, like, think of a casino, right?
Right.
So with a casino, you have people that are inside the building giving off heat. You have every single one of those machines that are in there, whether it's video poker or
Yeah.
Megabucks, they're all giving off heat.
Yeah.
So with all of that, there's always got to be a heat transfer. And so evaporative cooling systems are pulling the warm air out of the building, putting it through the evaporative cooling system, cooling that air down,
Heating
and then
the water.
pushing that back into the building in order to cool it.
That's a good
So
point.
it
Yeah.
is it
a
is an
system.
efficient way, from a cost efficient way to do the cooling. It's just not a water efficient way to do the cooling. And so we're looking at what are those more water efficient ways to do that cooling, but are also cost effective, that maybe these types of systems can be retrofitted, or at least going forward as they're constructed, they can utilize more water efficient technologies.
I mean, I would just think for our city, that would be somewhere to at least try and get them to move away from using those types of technologies,
But if
even if it costs them more in electricity.
And it's crazy if you think about like the fact that we only consume water outdoors for irrigation and evaporative cooling. Like as it is right now, Southern Nevada is one of the most water efficient communities, not just in the Colorado River system, but in the United States.
So let me ask you this, just as far as going forward, like over the next 20, 30 years, what is really a bigger threat to us, the changing climate or population growth?
Good question.
Very good question.
You know, it's probably more on the climate change component because of the unknown.
Okay.
You know, people say, you know, well, climate change is just a cycle. Well, cycles have predictability.
But the cycles
Yeah,
are
you
gonna
can
get
say
longer.
maybe, but there's no predictability to it. So if you can start pointing out some predictability to things, and that's the scary thing, is that it is unknown. What we do know is that we expect that it's going to get warmer. We expect that it's going to get drier. We expect that it's going to get more arid. And as it gets warmer and as it gets drier, there is less water that ultimately is going to be within the Colorado River system, which is why it's incumbent on all of the 7 states that use the river system and the country of Mexico to use less. And
So-
we use the least.
My friend went to Egypt to go into like a pyramid dig, and then
Pyramid schemes are legal.
yeah, not a pyramid scheme, completely different. That's Egypt, not America. And there was whales. He showed me pictures of whales in the desert that were like 20,000 years old, and they just fossilized and were just lying there. So climate change is real.
It's
Because
crazy.
that's in the
Well-
desert. There was whales, and we're worried about this little puddle.
I used to find
Well,
I used to
I mean,
find
there's-
seashells in my backyard in Arizona when I was
yeah,
5 years old.
exactly,
Yeah.
because it used to be under the ocean.
Well, have you been up to Berlin, Nevada yet?
Berlin? No, I've never been to Berlin, Nevada.
Berlin, Nevada, home of the ichthyosaur.
Oh, really? Where's
Yeah,
that?
It's a
Great point.
Yeah,
I'd like to go there.
It's up
It's the state fossil.
Yeah, the state fossil up kind of
one
middle
and
of Nevada.
Near Winnemucca?
No,
Well, I've been
just-
Tonopah.
You go to Tonopah and then you take this dirt road for about 2 hours straight north.
Ah, I'll have to check that out. I
but
like that
It's
stuff.
this giant whale-like dinosaur.
Oh, wow. I have to check
skeleton.
that out. Berlin, Nevada. Is that where the Germans landed?
No, it's a ghost town. So.
Well, probably was Germans there. That's why it's called
it was
Berlin,
probably
Nevada.
a
though.
bunch of Germans
Yeah.
feeling homesick while they were mining gold.
There's some
or
cool,
silver.
it's really cool up northern Nevada. There's some really cool spots, you know. It's really nice to get out.
Nevada's an amazing
Beautiful.
Yeah, now, so
beautiful.
northern Nevada, they're not really a desert.
They
like
got
we
so much
are.
water.
High desert.
Okay, so they are still.
They are considered a high desert. I mean, they do get water out of the Truckee River. That is a big component. There's groundwater as well throughout Nevada. In fact, if you were to look at all of the water that is available within the state of Nevada, Colorado River water, Truckee River water, all of the groundwater within the state of Nevada, we in southern Nevada only use 5% of all of the water that's available within the state. We only use 5%. So we use a very, very small amount, yet southern Nevada is responsible for about 75% of our state's economic output, and about 73% of our state's population is right here in this valley. So we are the economic engine of Nevada, and we do it on a very, very small amount of the state's water.
Let me say this. So do you think that we're going to actually, are we in a recovery mode at this point? Because we know that Lake Mead's going down. We know that there's people really concerned. Are we in recovery position at this
That's
point?
the first optimistic thing you said this evening.
Yeah.
Are
Right?
you talking economic recovery? Or are you
water.
talking
Water
water
recovery.
Water.
Because I feel that a lot of people feel that maybe we're in a position where we're still going down on this water situation. Now, do we have a recovery situation in place, or are we in one, or there's not really one needed?
So we have a shortage condition that is going to be implemented next year. And this is based on guidelines that were established in 2007 amongst all of the 7 states that share the Colorado River. So that first level of shortage is going to be implemented. That reduces the amount of water for Arizona, reduces the amount of water for Nevada. Should
From
Lake Mead-
300,000.
from 300,000 down to 279. for
It's
us.
not much.
It's not much.
We
but
can
that's
do it.
But that's because we get the smallest share. Last year we used 256.
Yeah.
So we're already below what
So
our
we're using
shortage
less
condition
than
is
what
going
they're-
to be.
Okay.
You know, I mean, ultimately, our maximum shortage that we have to take is 30,000 acre feet. So we can still continue to manage 30,000 acre foot shortage as long as we continue to stay focused on conservation. Are we in recovery? No, I wouldn't say that we are. I would say that we are moving into a plan that is helping to manage water demands, reduce water demands. We aren't in recovery until we get a good 3, 4, 5, 6 years of above average snowpack in the Colorado Rockies to help bring the water levels in Powell and Lake Mead back up.
So, question for you, Bronson, like that shortage condition that's going to be triggered next year, that's going to take us to 279,000 instead of 300,000, that those reductions are equally uniform across all 7 states, or is it,
No.
or is that because like the agriculture would like
Good question.
that the agriculture must have a weighting because things are going to stop.
So the way that it was initially conceived is that Arizona, California, and Nevada would take a proportional reduction in their water use, okay, in their water allocation. We took our proportional reduction, but long time ago, California and Arizona got into a little spat, and it ended up being Arizona v. California before the
High Court?
the Supreme
Supreme
Court.
Court.
And through that, Arizona was looking to get federal funding for the Central Arizona Project, which is a canal system that moves Colorado River water into Phoenix and down into Tucson. And they wanted federal funding to do that. And the California delegation at that time said, we'll support your federal funding. But in order for us to support it, you, Arizona,
Reduction.
are going to take any of our reductions. Should there be shortages on the Colorado River, you're going to take our reductions.
Did they agree to it?
They ultimately did agree to
they
it.
wanted the
They
money.
got the federal funding. The Central Arizona Project was built.
And that may shoot them in the foot later.
So Arizona is taking a much larger shortage, really because they're taking Arizona's share of shortage and they're taking
California's.
California's share of shortage. But there is a separate agreement, which is called the Drought Contingency Plan, in which California does begin to take shortage. They just take shortage once the water level in Lake Mead gets a little bit lower.
Do you guys have any other questions for Mr. Bronson?
I
back
just
here?
have a comment. I'm doing my part. I shipped one kid up to Reno and the other kid's in Utah. So
Is that how you do it?
helping everybody out there. Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about, we'll segue from this. Do you have anything else to say, Bronson, about what's happening with the whole water recovery here in Las Vegas?
It's all about staying water smart. Control your water use outdoors. We make water conservation really easy. Reduce your outdoor water use. We're in winter watering. Change your sprinkler clock to water 1 day a week. You have one assigned day. Go to snwa.com. Put your address in there. Make sure you're watering on your one assigned day, or else you're going to get a water waste violation or fine.
Busted.
Bam. That was good.
Bronson's going to knock on your
Let's
door.
talk a little bit about, we all know this is happening, right? So let's talk a little bit, kind of move to a different topic here on Zillow and overbuying on these properties. Now, this is something that everybody's talking about. It's going to be brought up on a couple of podcasts. I'm going to probably bring it up on another podcast tomorrow. Now, I want to talk to you guys about what your thoughts are with Zillow. Seemed like they overbought on some of these homes, and now they stopped buying altogether.
So, yeah, this kind of started from a Wall Street Journal article a couple weeks ago. And what they've said is that they're going to stop buying new properties while they sell the ones that they have. But what I've been reading is they're selling a lot of these properties at less than they paid for them now.
Wow.
And I'm not sure how good a business model that is.
So I was headhunted by Zillow when they were starting their operations, and I didn't take the job for various reasons. They were going to pay me good coin, and I signed a non-disclosure agreement, but I don't care.
What's their business model?
So their business model is, because I didn't take the job. So, no,
Well, it sounds like they're just flipping homes.
and I don't care. So basically, what happened was they started off. They've got this huge amount of data from the website, so they got all the online real estate, and then they're like, they tested it out to say like, buy your house now to get into the flipping business, because a publicly traded company has to show growth, and they built like $1 billion of revenue off the backs of realtors selling advertising. But really their ultimate goal was to put realtors out of business and flip homes. And, a corporation just wants to make as much money as possible, however they can. So their original business model was to create this. The original idea was to.
It's internet buying, right? It's kind of that's what it is, right? It's like iBuying.
I think their goal was to make an app where it's all through an app, and then it's easier,
right?
And it's cheaper, and then it hasn't worked. So their margins were too slim. And I worked for another hedge fund that was buying a lot of homes that. Right now they're at like 160,000 rentals.
Yeah.
And I was on the startup of that company, and that's how I got the referral to have this job. And then the thing is when you have like a big operation like that, you've got a lot of fat in the system, and if you're flipping like 10, 30, 100 homes a year, then that's way manageable. But when you start to get layers of management, and you got like it goes corporate, the people in there are like so detached from like what's really happening.
Yeah, they're not out in the trenches, right? Looking at some of the data.
Well, also, you get like big cost overruns, and then sometimes what happens is like there'll be people in the ecosystem of the flipping where like someone's making a bit of money here, and it's not like for the bottom line profit of the corporation. And I know the person that underwrites all the acquisitions for Las Vegas, and he's got to be freaking out because he's based his whole business model around this. And what happens is if people make money on the acquisition, then they get what I used to call like a bit too heavy on the trigger finger, because when they pull the trigger, someone's getting paid, and like you can't, like, it's a whole thing. It's not surprising that it's happened. I was a little bit pumped when I saw that it did happen.
So how does some of these other companies, like, let's say you got like Open Door and these
places. Open Door.
Yeah, I mean, they got these other places that seem, they're not thriving, but they're definitely making a profit.
So here's the thing, right, is with this business, there's profit. There's different ways to make profit. And so the goal of these like iBuyers, they're called iBuyers, right, is a term for them, like big institutional buyers, right? And what they want to do is they want to make a little bit throughout the whole transaction. Like they'll own the title company, they'll own a mortgage company, they'll own an insurance. Well, they self-insure. They don't get insurance because they've got so much money they self-insure. But how these people make money, they don't necessarily have to make money because it's a publicly traded company. So as long as everything looks good and the share price is good, then some people are getting paid. And so I read a few articles about this, and Zillow has picked up 3,800 homes this year, and they went into like 10 markets really quickly. And they're saying that they've reached their allocation for buying this year, but there's probably like obviously a deeper problem with what you mentioned about selling homes for less than what they paid for them.
Yeah,
like that's panic selling.
Well, the problem is they're also taking longer to sell now.
Yeah, but the other thing that was a thought that I had was, okay, so we're seeing this happening, and Zillow is the first, right? What we really got to look at is this the start of a pattern between the iBuyers, and is it because their eyes were bigger than their stomach and they gobbled up too many homes and they did it inefficiently and they're going to fail for that reason? Or is there a piece of information that we don't know about? Because, Zillow they've got the smartest people, and is this triggered because of like an internal problem, or is it triggered because they know something that's external and they're like piecing out?
Well, I think that's a good question. That's a very good.
And I don't know what the answer is.
They know that we don't know. But I was thinking this though too about Zillow that makes them a little different than say like Open Door or OfferPad. Is that like they've been this basically like information clearinghouse company for all these years. They haven't been an iBuyer for all these years.
They're like a data octopus.
Right, data. They're a data, and like and so when they just got into this iBuyer thing, was it just recently for them? Whereas OfferPad, Open Door have been doing it for several years now. And then on top of that, something that I always thought was a problem for the iBuyers was that, your model is going to work great while the market is still appreciating. But
Yeah.
what happens when
It's
you
not
know,
good.
the market doesn't go up for 3 months and you've still continued to be buying homes for 3 months? So
Yeah, what's the
is it
backup plan for that, right?
So maybe all of them are gonna have some trouble, but Zillow maybe got themselves in
Yeah,
the worst
well,
because
Zillow
they didn't know what they were doing.
Yeah,
maybe
you look at
that's
Zillow's,
just a thought.
Look at Zillow's stock price. It started Monday
getting
above
crushed.
100, and it's below 85 now.
Wow.
So,
Yeah.
I mean,
So-
that's
But anyway, don't feel bad for them.
in a couple
Yeah.
days.
Yeah.
Do you guys feel that Zillow though tries to extend themselves? Because look, Zillow's a company that started relatively just showing homes on the market or online, and then they got an MLS number. I think now they're registered as being a realtor,
Zillow's-
right?
Yeah.
It's like they got their own realtor number. So go ahead.
Zillow's not the friend of the consumer or
No.
the realtor.
And then people have a misconception.
They
of
do,
that.
but they've got really good marketing and they've got really good tools, and they're like
And
way
good
ahead.
data. I mean, they're
Well, they've got the data, and they've also purchased CenturyLink, which was they're so about data that the company that has the lock boxes where you go in and out of the lock boxes, Zillow bought that company because then they know like who's coming and going and how many showings homes are getting.
Oh, I thought you meant the phone company.
Oh, I
No,
did too.
CenturyLink. You know the little lock
Central Lock,
boxes?
Central Lock.
Because
Yeah.
they're the
Central
evil
Lock,
empire
okay.
of real estate data,
Yeah.
and they got the firepower.
Well, look, let's be honest. Let's talk about this too. Like we all know that I would feel that they're somewhat in a way trying to monopolize real estate in all facets. It's not just one specific area. Every time they see, oh, this company like Open Doors jumping on this, I'm going to jump on that, and we're going to try to do it bigger and better.
Yeah.
They just keep pumping money into the system. And I'll be, for me, I don't send people to Zillow to start off because a lot of times the data or information, it's there and it's accurate pertaining to the property. The values aren't there. A lot of times it's way off,
You're
and
an
it's a
idiot.
misconception.
If you use Zillow for lead generation, you're an idiot.
Yeah.
If you're an agent, because it's anyway. I don't want to get into that, but I mean, let's see what happens.
What do you think about it though, Mike? You were saying that they overbought and then now they're trying to sell below price. Does that mean that they're done with this altogether as far as the iBuying?
Well,
Are
they've
they
laid
gonna-
off 25% of their workforce out the gate right away, and
I-
they'll probably lay off more.
Yeah.
But they won't lay me off.
They've got to either regroup or do something different. I mean, they've learned something from this. I'm guessing they'll recover, but obviously this just isn't a business plan that can continue. You can't stay in business doing that.
I wouldn't worry about Zillow, but what I would be worried about, which is a thought I had this evening, is if like one of the other iBuyers like up sticks as well, then I mean it's better for homeowners. It's awesome that these evil corporations are experiencing issues because they're not as nice as the water district. They don't actually they don't like help people.
man.
Yeah, they don't like help people. They're there just all Zillow does.
Well, Zillow
is
doesn't fine you like those
No,
guys. Oh my.
Zillow. If you use Zillow to sell your house, like unless you've got a real problem and you need to do it quick, right? If you use Zillow, you're effectively just scalping some equity
Well,
off
that's
yourself.
another thing I've always
And-
wondered. Why do people use these types of companies?
Well, there
Good
are
fast
marketing,
transaction.
convenience.
Yeah, if you're distressed and you got to sell it.
Yeah,
fast, you
but
really-
like the
you
thing
really
is,
actually don't
it's a
wanna
free
deal
I mean, you got
country.
the ugly
with the
houses guy.
negotiation. Well, yeah, but it's the same idea.
Here's the thing: it's a free country, but if you're willing to pay the most expensive convenience fee in American
that's what it is.
history,
It's convenience.
then go for it and don't tip them.
Well, it's money. I mean, look, if you can market yourself, it really comes down to marketing, and it really comes down to what your pockets are, right? Like if you got deep pockets and you have marketing skills and you hire the right people, anybody can become a Zillow. Not anybody, but there's a lot of places that can do that. Now, as far as looking at Zillow as the model, do you think that is this the end of iBuying for the foreseeable future? Because if you look at it, is this type of model of buying only there if you're in an appreciated or a accelerating market?
I mentioned that earlier.
Right.
I don't
Or
see
is
how
it
it
or is
works.
it going to
Don't.
or is it going to regress? Because maybe that model works, but what do you think?
I think they'd have to change the model that they've been using currently.
They're
Because
gonna
right
have to
now
buy
it
'em
could
for
be.
less.
Well, here's the
'cause
thing. I don't know.
They'll have to get people that are willing to sell it for less than market
Well,
value. Maybe.
well, that in a declining market, if it's
Oh, declining,
obviously
then
declining,
that's even
then you're gonna have to get the house at such
Really
a steep
low.
discount
Yeah.
to like offset the risk of
Right.
like throwing down on an asset. So I will find out, but
Maybe they'll become landlords.
So do you guys
Can
don't? Do you don't feel that?
I was a little bit pumped when I saw that article that Zillow was losing their ass, though. It got me.
Well, you know what?
I don't like iBuyers personally.
It's one of those things though that you think that okay, there's a place for everything. Maybe there's a market for that. Maybe it's a small market, but I also think that it's kind of like you got to kind of test the waters with it because now we're starting to head somewhat into a more of a regressing market here in Las Vegas in some pockets.
I don't know about that.
You don't think that some locations are starting to come down or at least be stagnant?
No, I think that like people were asking too much, and like it's calmed down. But I don't think there's any regression that I've seen at all.
I feel that
I haven't seen it.
Yeah, have you seen it?
I mean, I haven't seen real regression. No, I've just seen the stop. I've just seen the increase stop.
Yeah.
Okay. So you guys have anything else to say about Zillow? Mike, you got anything else to say about what's going on with Zillow? Because we're going to end the show. Nope. And I want to ask a few questions real quick. So, Mike, is there anything going on at your company? And is there anything new that's happening with you as far as your company? And
we've got leftover Halloween candy.
you got
Let's not talk about candy.
519 South Decatur.
Who doesn't have candy, right? Jeez.
Yeah, my assistant brought it in. Great. Thanks a lot. That's
Right?
what we need. She brought these little Reese's peanut butter pumpkin things. They're really good.
Yeah.
They're not pumpkin flavored.
Not good for the diet, though.
Oh, gosh, no. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, but doing a cybersecurity workshop probably next month. And
Cybersecurity workshop.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just talking about how to stay safe out there in this crazy online world.
Yeah, we just had somebody about cybersecurity come on last Saturday. If you guys want to know about that, check out the last show on Saturday. It was Halloween, obviously, and we dressed up. But so maybe you promote that, put that out there. Like, how can somebody get a hold of you, or how does somebody find that?
Find my website, peakfinancialsolutions.com. We'll have an invite up there probably this week.
And anything you got to say here, Mr. Matt Shield, about real estate? Any
About real
thoughts?
estate? No, it's like, I'm usually busier like this quarter, and it's showing up.
Yeah.
I get a lot of people that want to get stuff done by the end of the tax year.
Yeah.
And no, I think it's been good. I'm loving the weather and loving the interest rates and just loving life.
Yes. You sound so rosy over there.
I am rosy.
So what about you? How does somebody get a hold of you over here, Rich? Because Rich, if people don't know, what do you do, Rich?
So I do a bunch of different things,
Right.
actually. But
Jack of all trades?
Yeah, but
Washes cars,
not
installs
anymore.
water heaters.
Not anymore. But no. But I'm an estate planning attorney, and you can find. I'm at the law offices of Jacqueline McCoy and Associates, and you can find us at www.attorneylasvegas.com. So that's kind of easy to remember, hopefully. But I would just say this: hey, if you own property, you should do something with it. You should put it in a trust. You should have your estate plan put
Please.
together. If you own, especially if you own a home.
If you like your kids, get a
If you like
trust.
your
If
kids,
you
get a
don't,
trust.
yeah,
If you
don't worry about it.
don't worry about it. Yeah.
Or just
and
spend it.
Right. And even if you have a will, it's still going to go through probate. So if you want to save
expensive.
your kids a lot of heartache and money, put your property.
Did
in
you throw
trust
out your
for them.
website?
I did.
Okay, good. Let's go over to Bronson Mac, Southern Nevada Water Authority.
Nice.
Right?
Wow, you got
Bring
it.
that off, man. Just like
Authority.
that.
Nailed it.
Authority.
Good
So
clap. Got it.
listen, man. Everybody wants to
Respect my
know.
authority.
Do you have a website, or does somebody, if they want to find you and ask questions or email you and just kind of get to know what's happening, do you have anything you can put out there?
Yeah, really easy. SNWA.com. It's our acronym. Southern Nevada Water Authority.com. We have a contact us page there. We've got a lot of good information. If you have any questions at all about water conservation, water supply, hit us up on snwa.com. We're also on all of the social media platforms. You can find us there. No question is a dumb one. Send them our way. We'll make sure you get a response. Oh, and you can check out our podcast, which is Water
There you go.
Smarts, the Water Smarts
Smarts.
podcast. Check us
I
out
want
on
to
Water
come on your
Smarts.
podcast. That'd be a good laugh.
When
We'll
does
see.
that happen? When does that podcast air? Does it?
We put out a couple a month. So we've got everything from are we running out of water in Las Vegas to some of the new technologies we're using to deliver water to homes and businesses throughout Southern Nevada. So Water Smarts.
Teleportation.
Check it out.
I
Water
think his
Smarts
tagline
podcast.
could be Wet and Wild.
That's already taken, man.
All right, guys, this
Thank
is Dan
you.
French. This is the most real behind-the-scenes information regarding financing, real estate, money talk, entrepreneurs here going on in Las Vegas. I'm your host, Dan French. Thank you so much. Please hit that like button. We need the support. And make any comments in the comment section. We'll definitely check them out and try to answer all your questions. And if with all that, let's see you guys on Saturday. Thank
Bye,
you.
y'all.
Cool.
Thank you for watching an episode of the French Workbench podcast. If you want to tune into past episodes, please subscribe to my channel now. Also, if you want to look at our audio only options, we do have iTunes and SoundCloud.